Hello everyone, it's Professor Hall. Welcome to week 14 of the Harlem Renaissance. So this is a 16-week course. I started your final project for you in week 14 so that you would have some time to work on it. Basically, the secondary sources are all there for you in the Module 7 folder. They're all from the library databases. You're going to choose 2 of them to use in your final paper. You'll need to read them, and then you'll be taking notes in the form of an annotated bibliography. There is an example on how to take notes on the sources in the assignment itself, and there are also optional videos on writing a literary argument that I posted, I think, before as well. If you struggled with this on the midterm or the short essay, where we looked at Zora Neale Hurston and the criticism on her story, Conscience of the Court, I recommend watching these videos. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Some of the sources are very dense. They are peer-reviewed. That means that they are written by scholars of literature, mostly for other scholars of literature. So don't feel bad if you can't understand every single thing these authors are trying to say. Do your best. I recommend printing them up and highlighting things and taking a few points and a few quotes that you could use in your paper later on. A lot of times, the critical sources like this will start with a theoretical framework. They'll talk about literary theory and then they'll apply it to the text. But basically, and sometimes they'll include some history and stuff too. But basically, I want you to see how other people interpreted the book and what jumped out to them. So each secondary source kind of examines an aspect of the novel or of Wallace Thurman's work as a whole and kind of talks a little bit more about his life. So we have Harlem Shadows, Re-Evaluating the Black or the Berry. That looks at the darker side of life in Harlem. I talked about that in my lecture, how he really didn't want to paint life for African Americans as being like completely virtuous, because that's not how he saw the reality, right? And that's sort of what that source focuses on. Exclusionary tactics and intra-racial prejudice in The Black or the Berry discusses colorism and prejudice in the novel. It's really the biggest theme there. So exclusionary tactics means leaving people out. How are people left out because of the color of their skin, and how are they left out even within their own race? Because as we saw, not really any white people in the story except for one at a party who you really don't hear from, right? One or two, anyway. Then we have Decadence, Sexuality, and Bohemian Vision. That talks about sex and sexuality in Thurman's work as a whole, including this novel. And it touches, I believe, on some of the aspects of his own sexuality. As I mentioned in the lecture, and as you saw in the book, there is a scene at the end where Emmylou makes a decision because she realizes that her boyfriend's sexuality really isn't what she thought it was. Now, she's kind of come to make that decision already, but that's kind of like the final straw, right? And as much as Emmylou has some self-hatred, the author, who was gay, may have also had some self-hatred as well. And so this is at least part of what's discussed in that particular secondary source. Then we have The Black or the Berry and the Emancipatory City. That particular article looks at Harlem in the book as a place that promises true freedom and emancipation to young Black people, or at least that's the promise, right? Is that actually what we see in the book? You have to read the criticism to find out what the author's thoughts are on that. And then the last piece is Exploding the Canon, a re-examination of Wallace Thurman. And it again, that kind of discusses the author's work and his place in the canon of Harlem Renaissance literature. A lot of times he's left out. In this class, he's not, but in a lot of other classes, he is. So why is that? Should we re-examine his work? Should he be part of the canon? The canon is like what is traditionally read and taught. I don't really believe in the canon, so blowing it up That's kind of what this article is about. There is an example, as I said, of how to take notes in the assignment itself. But basically, you're going to read 2 of the sources provided. You can, if you need to, watch the lecture on how to write a literary argument, and then you're going to do the annotated bibliography. So that's it for this week. If you want to get a jump start on the essay, you can. If you just want to do the annotated bibliography this week, that's fine too. Look at your schedule and see how much you have coming up in terms of finals. That's why I start everything week 14. Otherwise, you just have that piece that's actually due. So that's it. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks, everyone.